Hello everybody! Hi, nice to meet you. My name is Sydney. I'll be your instructor for this term. So welcome back to campus. I hope you all had a good, probably short little break before we get started this summer term. But welcome to the class. This course we're going to be focusing on horror flash fiction, as you probably know. So this is a horror flash fiction workshop. And I'm so excited to see what you all come up with because we can have so many great ideas for this. So for this course, we're going to be focusing on horror, of course. So I write a lot of horror, but usually when I start a piece, I start with a specific fear, something that I'm afraid of, or something that someone would be afraid of, and then I try to twist that and run with it. This is a good way to get started. The reason we're going to be focusing on flash fiction instead of, for example, a long novel like you probably know Stephen King. He writes 1,000 pages. But the same techniques that apply to writing flash fiction, coming up with the ideas to create something unnerving, something scary, that tension, that pacing that you learn in just a limited amount of space, you use that over and over again in a longer work as well, in different ways and different pacings, but it's the same concept. So a great way to start out with horror is to start with flash fiction. So one thing I wanted to talk about is, like I said, fear. Fear is the heart of horror. So we're going to be focusing on fear. We have 4 main activities we'll be doing in this course as we go along with it. So first we're going to be doing some assigned readings, and we're going to be discussing those together. Then we're also going to have some brainstorming activities, and I'm going to have you write flash fiction, probably once every 2 weeks or so. And last of all, we're going to be workshopping those flash fictions. I'll explain a little bit more later. But we are going to be working in small groups for a large chunk of this class to make it easier for us to workshop all of our pieces in a short amount of time. So we will be doing 3 to 4 flash fictions, depending on that last one, what you decide to do. But we'll be making 3 to 4 pieces this term. The very last one, whether you choose to use one of these or you make a new one, the very last one is going to be a more detailed critique. So you're going to get a line-by-line critique back from all of your classmates, not just your small groups. So I wanted to go back to talking about how I mentioned fear. So there are a lot of kinds of fear. There are a lot of different fears that people have. For the sake of simplicity, I've just broken it down into 3 vague categories. These are not the only categories, but we're going to start with these. So first of all, we're going to be starting with kind of just a specific fear. Pretty simple, a simple fear. So things you can name: clowns, dolls, heights, oceans, space, anything you're just afraid of. So these are just, fears. They're kind of concrete in a way. Then, second kind of fear, we're going to kind of change it up. We're going to switch over to looking at monsters, creatures, supernatural things, ghosts. We're going to look at those as well. And the last one, the third category that we'll be looking at, is one of the more interesting ones, and a little more difficult sometimes. It's more of a situational fear. So instead of just being a thing, so a doll or a clown, we're going to be looking at situations that can be a little scary. Now, the fun thing about those is that we usually can just use everyday situations and twist them into something scary, because that's what's going to affect the audience the most. Something that they're used to, something that's safe, that feels everyday and normal. But now you're going to make it not safe. So those can be really fun to work with. So we're going to be working up to that as we go with it. All of these are scary things. All these 3 different kinds, they're all scary, but the question is why? Why are they scary? So we're going to be talking about that a lot this term, and that's what we're going to be trying to figure out as we go along. We want to ask this question, why? And how do I replicate that fear in a story? So a good example, I mentioned clowns and dolls. Maybe you realized that that's my fear. I hate dolls. I hate them. But for people who don't like clowns, don't like dolls, the question is why? Why don't they like them? Why are they scary? And in general, it's because they're kind of in the uncanny valley area. They're a little too close to looking like a human, but not quite there. And that kind of gap between normal and abnormal makes it creepy and uncomfortable. So that's a great kind of category to look at there. Another one, so spiders. Spiders are a really common phobia. People hate spiders. A lot of people hate spiders. Why? Why do people hate spiders? For some people, they say it's the movement. It's how they move, how they walk. It really just creeps them out. It's uncomfortable. Sometimes it's because they're so hairy. If you look at their legs, they shouldn't be that hairy. They shouldn't have that many legs. It's too many legs. These are all good things to look at. Why are they scary? One more example, let's say the ocean. Someone's afraid of swimming or afraid of going in the ocean. Why? Maybe because you don't know what's in there. It's so deep, it's so dark, anything could be in there. That's where we start to get to the fun part, where you can take that and twist it and start coming up with, what if there's a good reason that someone doesn't like the ocean? They got a good reason for it. You don't know what's down there. So, can you tell us what's down there? These are great ways to kind of come up with some ideas. These are just simple examples, but these are some good examples of kind of specific fears and how we can dig deeper with them. So, for today, what we're going to start with is we're going to start with these specific fears. I'm going to put you all into small groups. I've already made the list, and you're going to be in these small groups for the rest of the course. So every week or so we're going to break it into kind of 2-week structures. So first week, we're going to have you meet, and we're going to brainstorm ideas, brainstorm whatever's related to that topic. So today, for example, we're going to be doing a brainstorming activity. We're going to be trying to come up with as many fears as you can think of. Those ones I gave are some really good examples of clowns, dolls, spiders. But I want you to keep going. I want you to make as many as you can. We're going to do that for probably about 10 minutes, maybe. I'd like you to work together to come up with as many fears as you can, and I want you to write them all down on a piece of paper. So after that, we're going to trade the papers between your small groups, and using your friends' papers, you're going to take a look at what they wrote down as fears, familiarize yourself with that, see what they came up with, kind of compare in your own head. But what we're going to do next is I want you to then come up with some reasons why. Why are people afraid of those? I want you to try and come up with as many reasons as you can for each one. Try for 3 if you can, because everyone's different. Everyone is afraid of something for different reasons. Even if you have the same fear, it's not the same reason sometimes. But I want you to kind of brainstorm these things together as a team. Like I mentioned, this will be kind of a bi-weekly thing. We're going to spend a first week brainstorming, then we're going to have you talk about reading assignments that will focus on each of these specific types of fears. And the next week, we will be working on workshopping your flash fiction based around the fears you come up with. So for now, let's get started. I'd like you to break into your small groups and start thinking, what is scary? What scares people? What scares you? What scares your friends? What scares anyone? And start writing that down. All right, thanks guys.